Taylor Swift has given me an early Christmas gift. She surprised us with a new album called Evermore, and there's a song titled Ivy on it. Thank you, Tay Tay. Now, I know the song's not about me, but it's a good song, it's a good album, and there's sort of a Christmas song on it. And it inspired me to create 4 PR lessons from the album that can help you at your business or workplace. Welcome to Coffee with Me, Myself, and Ivy, Caffeinated Holiday Edition. I'm just a coffee addict, PR pro sharing social media tips, communication industry best practices with pop culture examples to entrepreneurs and professionals. Before I talk about Taylor Swift's Evermore and the PR lessons I got from the album, let's start off with a motivational quote. Life isn't about how you survive the storm, but rather how you dance in the rain. Kay Broomberg. Now for the disclaimer. I am not one of those Taylor Swift fans that look for the Easter eggs and the mysteries and stuff. But I do connect and enjoy her music from time to time. Like if you want to know what it was like dating me in my 20s, listen to 1989. I don't mind the Reputation album. Also, Folklore, I can't listen to it without getting in my feelings. Like I can't listen to Folklore. It takes me to a place where I think about my ex. And Ivy don't want to do that in 2020. But I love Taylor Swift's music, but I'm not one of those fans saying like,
oh, her boyfriend wrote this song because his granddaddy's name is this, and they met at this place, and that's her boyfriend's pen name. So Joe wrote one of the songs.
I am not one of those fans, but I do love Tay Tay. Now, if you want a more thorough review of Taylor Swift's new album, Evermore, because trust me, again, the wordplay, the poetry, the vibe, check out this video over here. Also, I do recommend checking out one of my favorite podcasts, NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour. They did a whole episode on this recently. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, cool, you like the album, Ivy. How does this connect to the PR lessons? And this is not a holiday pop culture example. Well, as I mentioned earlier, there is a song that's kind of holiday-ish on it called "'Tis," I'm not going to say that word, "The Season," that tells a story. She's literally telling a story about reconnecting with a love from your hometown during the holidays. And we all can relate to that. Like if the pandemic was not happening, somebody would probably got a phone call when I got back to Memphis because "'Tis the," I'm not going to say the word "season," has been played throughout my house and my car since this album came out. There's some more songs on there that tells a story, which leads to my first tip. Consider adding storytelling to reach your audience. What makes this album a little different compared to her other albums, but very similar to Folklore, is there's a lot of stories on this album. You have Willow, you have A Cowboy Like Me, you have Ivy, which I find funny because it's not about me. It should be about me, but it's not about me. But it's basically about a woman falling in love with her side piece. And that's messed up. Y'all were drinking her husband's wine. I don't know who thought this was a good idea to put, you know what? Not only she cheated on her husband, but we're drinking his wine. That's messed up. What I'm trying to say is some of my favorite songs on the album were stories, and they were told very well, and they kept me hooked to the point I'm listening to the album over and over again, which helps Taylor achieve her goal of getting an album that's getting a lot of streams, that's probably doing good on the charts. And you should do the same thing of considering adding storytelling in your campaigns or in your messaging to achieve a goal. Now, one thing I must point out, Taylor Swift's 2020 albums sound very different compared to her usual music, but she must knew her fans will still connect with the content and find it valuable because they are doing well right now, even though it's something new. Which leads me to tip 2. Make sure if you're trying something new that your customers will see the value in it. For example, do your customers even need this? Do they even want this new product or service? Because you may be pushing it out and marketing it, but if they don't need it or see value in it, they're not going to check it out. For example, did I need Evermore? Yes, I need an album that just had Ivy on it. And though I know Ivy is not about me and it's about a scandalous love affair, I still needed it. I was like, oh, this is entertaining. Ooh, you're drinking your husband's wine and leaving at midnight to go see your side piece. And your love for him is growing like ivy. Okay. And now you're covered in love for your side piece when that's not your husband. The scandal. Did I need that? Yes, I did. And Taylor Swift knew if she gave certain content, whether it was love songs or stories or affairs, etc., we will all be interested and be like, yes, we needed this product, we needed this album, we see the value in it. Make sure you do the same thing. If you're trying something new and you didn't do your research to see if your customers or audience would not actually find value or need this service or want this service, go back to the drawing board and try again. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video, Evermore was a surprise album. And even though it was a surprise, and she only told us like literally the day before, everything was well thought and planned. It was planned way ahead of time. I need you to do the same thing, which leads me to tip 3. Please plan all your campaigns ahead of time, even if it's a surprise campaign. Now, I know you're probably saying, well, my boss just came to me at the last minute with this and that. That's cool, but even if you have to lock yourself somewhere and plan out how you're going to do this last minute request from your leadership, please do it, because if you do not, many problems can happen. So with Taylor Swift, for example, I can tell this was all planned out because the next day when I went to look at the lyric videos on YouTube, guess what? All promo graphics for her current album was on all her old music. So they really thought this out. They was like, hey, we're going to surprise you with an album, but we're going to think this through. Like all her old music videos, old songs, all had a graphic saying, hey, Evermore is out. And matter of fact, I believe Taylor Swift also sells merch on her website. They already had Evermore merch, and now her fans are doing that Easter egg stuff saying,
hey, there's a folklore merch that was this color. There was Evermore merch that's that color. There's a third thing that's a different color. That means we're going to get a third album.
So they already freaking out about that. Taylor knows her fans, and Taylor knows that if everything's planned out and I have the merch and I have the graphics on YouTube because people want to know the lyrics to the songs and etc., this will be success. And sure enough, so far this is a successful album. So please plan all your campaigns. Please pre-plan your PR campaigns, your marketing campaigns. Because I know in the ideal world, we plan everything ahead of time. But I also know that it's not uncommon for people to come to you with last minute things. So please sit down, try to create a plan, have everything lined up, because then you will see more success. And then also you can be more strategic with this campaign as well. I know many people say Folklore and Evermore are sister albums, but Evermore is clearly a little different with a little bit of tweaks, which leads me to tip 3. When releasing a new product or service, if it's attached to a bigger brand, keep the same brand formula. Now, I have seen this many times in my career where we're about to launch a product or a service, but it's still attached to another brand. And sometimes in the planning process, people are like, well, let's do this thing, let's do that thing. But it's totally different from the brand that exists. And to me personally, that causes confusion. Like if this is a subset of another brand, do not try to make it totally different. Make a little tweaks, but don't make it totally different. And that's the thing with Folklore versus Evermore. Evermore, I really feel like it's more of a storybook versus Folklore. I feel like it's more about Taylor Swift and it had a little bit of stories, but Evermore was full of more stories. However, I must say, like for example, on Folklore, there's a song about her grandfather, but then on Evermore, there's a song about her grandmother, Marjorie. So again, just like with the song about the grandfather on Folklore and the song about the grandmother on Evermore, 2 different songs, 2 different subjects, same, like honoring your grandparents. However, Evermore clearly is about storytelling, and I feel like Folklore was more about songs probably inspired by personal experiences. Which leads me back to when you're releasing a new product or service and it's attached to your brand, unless it's totally different from your brand, fine, do a whole new look, messaging, etc. But if it's still like a subset of a brand you already have established, just do a little tweaks, but make sure it has the same brand formula, because you're going to confuse your customers, your audience, if it does not have the same brand formula. Thank you for watching another caffeinated holiday edition of Coffee with Me, Myself, and Ivy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. No, like seriously, do that. And join me every week for social media tips, communication industry best practices with pop culture examples. Remember,